This is the worst moment in the history of my life.
34, 9, and 9. If he want to be Marcus Jordan out this bitch, I'm going to look the other way.
He could have been smoking cigarettes, Bill. He could have been smoking cigarettes, bring the ball up the fucking court, and I would still be like, when can we sign you to the Supermax?
Yeah. Consideration and feel like we got out in front of what could have been a tumultuous summer.
Nico, did you have any indication? The tradiest trade to ever trade a trade has occurred in the NBA this week, and Luka Doncic, the man poised to retire as the best Dallas Maverick of all time, is now your newest member of the Los Angeles Lakers. It still hasn't really set in yet, and I think I speak for everyone at 2 from 1 Hoops when I say,
What?
What was Dallas thinking? Moreover, what was Nico Harrison thinking? Was this direct sabotage for a guy who doesn't see himself long-term as part of the Maverick staff? I'll put this disclosure right here that this video is in no way going to be a TED Talk suggesting you drag Luka Harrison out into the streets of Dallas and beat him to death with your pairs of Luka 3s with the Matador colorway. Instead, I'm going to be telling you why this trade makes so much sense from the Lakers' standpoint, how Los Angeles finally has an heir to LeBron's throne that'll inevitably have a vacancy, and how much more the Luka MVP agenda is about to be pushed while he's wearing the purple and gold. First and foremost, let's address the elephant in the room. Yes, the injury concerns with Luka are valid and they hold some weight. No pun intended. But for a guy who's had the same lower body injuries since his rookie season, calf strains and rolled ankles are a daunting reminder for Luka just how important conditioning is for an NBA body. However, to his credit, he's managed to play 60 or more games every year he's been in the NBA aside from the big 2025. You know how many times AD has played 60 or more games in his Lakers tenure? Twice. 2 times has the brow made of glass suited up in the LA colorway for at least 75% of the season. So, Nico Harrison, the answer to injury and availability concerns is to bring the guy who is historically not at all reliable for being available. And your pairing of street clothes is World Beat Flat, who in the past 14 years has appeared in 75% of his team's games just 4 times. 4 fucking times! In my opinion, the best ability is availability, and Nico Harrison has just made the Snoopy and Woodstock of missing time. Speaking of peanuts, the Mavericks also decided to ship out Morris and Maxey, and it netted them a whopping single first-rounder in 2029 and Max Christie. While Christie is not a throw-in guy by any means, and AD is no one to sneeze at, you've really got to contextualize it like this. A guy who at his worst is probably the 3rd or 4th best player in the entire NBA, just dragged his team to the finals on one leg, and then a season later got traded for a single first-rounder, a 3rd-year guard who has flashed some interesting upside, and Anthony Davis, who will be 32 in March. Granted, AD is most definitely a top 10 player, but you can argue him outside of your top 10, and the gap between number 10 and number 3/4 is so insurmountable, I fear the entire NBA community missed the point of the comparison. AD isn't just another scrub to be thrown into a trade, no one's saying that, but he's far and away tiers below Luka Doncic, and one of them is just about to enter the prime as the most impactful player to ever face his franchise, and the other one is at the tail end of their superstardom and is about to enter the twilight of their tenure in the NBA. No matter what way you slice it, Nico whiffed in the evaluation department of this trade. Let's not forget, this is the same guy who fumbled signing Curry to Nike all the way back in 2013. He started the pitch to Wardell by calling him Stefan, not to be confused with Stefan, which, isn't even his legal name, but I digress. In the same meeting, Harrison presented Curry with slides that hadn't been updated to showcase Curry's potential brand image, but featured Kevin Durant instead. Yeah, this is the guy who I'd want running my team, the generational bag fumbler. I think I've beaten the dead horse with the Mr. Harrison and Dallas anti-agenda, so I'll pivot to what this means for LA and Luka as a whole. The cardinal sin of trading young for old and giving up the best player in the trade has been tossed into the history of the Mavericks, but the Lakers have just A, expanded their window of longevity for staying competitive. A duo of LeBron and Luka, even as Father Time takes his pot shots at the King, is a duo I do not want to run up against in a playoff setting. And B, it not only saves Pelinka from any previous scrutiny, but also sets LA up for the next decade if Luka plans to re-sign. And if I'm being honest, all signs point to it. right out of the gate, I don't think it's set in enough for people just how bright this Lakers future seems to be. I'm going to rattle off some statistics, so follow along here. There are 2 players in the history of the NBA to have career averages of 30 points per game in the postseason. Those 2 players? Luka Doncic and Michael Jordan. If you had to guess who has more first-team All-NBA selections, would you guess Wardell Chef Curry or the Don Luka Doncic? It's Luka's 5 to Curry's 4, and Luka has made 5 straight since his sophomore season in the NBA. Funny enough, if you want to talk about archetypal overlaps, LeBron and Luka are far and away 2 of the best creators in the league today. Real quick, huge shout out to B-Ball Index. Seriously, you should subscribe to their tools. But both Luka and LeBron have been 2 of the best playmakers combined with shot creation in the league for a long time now. This graph shows playmaking talent, which is basically a way to chart how potent and impactful a player's passing has been in their career, and Luka has never dropped out of the top 5 since he entered the league. To make it more palatable, this graphic shows just how good Luka is relative to the rest of the league in terms of how they add offensive value and potential points with their passing, in which Luka sits in the 99th percentile. It also shows how Luka adds high-value assists to his team, in which he ranks in the 96th percentile. All of this is to say, Luka is not only a generational talent, a term that I think we throw around just a little too frequently, but also one of the most impactful offensive players in NBA history. And now, he's representing the city with one of the most marketable destinations of all time. He played the politics of his abrupt departure from the Mavericks very well. He had a heartfelt statement. He did an LA gang sign where he walked out of the plane like he's a K-pop star stepping foot on American soil for the first time. And for a guy who basically got screwed out of $100+ million, he seems to be acclimating to it very well. Let's take a look at the optics of LA for a second though. If you thought the Luka MVP agenda was being pushed heavy before, just wait till you see the media exposure combated with the narrative fabrication and the magnifying glasses put on Luka's success with the purple and gold. It will be exponentially larger than ever before. This is no knock on Texas and Dallas as a market, but we're talking about LA here. The big Los Angeles.
Wow. Los Angeles, the city where dreams come true.
The way he will be postered as the golden boy for the NBA will be unlike anything we've seen before, and for good reason. If the Lakers weren't certain about what to do in the next 2 to 3 years, they most certainly are now. Hell, I wouldn't be surprised if they used that tradable first and tried to cobble together a trade that nets them a guy like Miles Turner to not only springboard them into contention in present day, but also set up Luka for a partner down the road. Furthermore, the Lakers could also just wind up trading LeBron away to bolster a war chest of pieces to add to Luka's tenure, or worst case scenario, just trade Luka if he doesn't want to re-sign for a king's ransom. Those are unlikely scenarios, but the baseline of Luka on the Lakers is bound to attract some attention in the offseason. To play for one of the biggest markets in the league next to a perennial superstar like Luka, who could make it work with the most controversial of co-stars, the Lakers have set themselves up to be an even more attractive free agent destination than normal. All purely hypotheticals, but the pool of players they could attract are large. And if I'm evaluating my potential success as a player, seeing all these moves happen, I'm probably adding LA onto my short list of teams I'd demand a trade to. The beauty of having Luka is your baseline success with a cobbled roster of Reeves, Rui, DFS, and whatever center you sign is enough for Luka to box with some of the best. And he'll draw out the best in your role players and can elevate a bad team to a great one. And we've already seen that he can co-star with the most unlikely of partners. He made the finals with the man no one wanted to touch with a 10-foot pole, and the proof is in the pudding. You can throw any star-level player, no matter how heliocentric, no matter how demanding, no matter how much of a diva he may be, and Luka can make it work. Nico Harrison might go down as one of the biggest villains of all time, and Dallas fans might have just witnessed their next Dirk be blindsided, bag thrown over his head, and shipped off to LA. But this is likely a paradigm shift for players we have previously thought to be untouchable. If Luka, at age 25, after just making the finals, leading the league in scoring, can be traded for Anthony Davis and a single first-rounder, then no one is untouchable. No second apron bullshit could possibly prevent the trades we thought previously impossible. Hell, Tatum could be on the Knicks by 2026 for all we know. There is no longer a single Lakers mock trade we can all laugh at together anymore because the unthinkable has happened. The Lakers have set themselves up for the next decade, and Adam Silver, as he continues to conduct the orchestra, may have just played out the most polarizing and chaotic trade we've ever seen in the history of the NBA.